Volume 16. Consummate Fusion. Chapter 106. Drifting Snow Ice Phoenix. Blue-silver grass really was durable. The blue-silver grass making up the spider web restraint especially was even tougher. Relying on his full spirit power output, Tang San's defense of his side was watertight. However, no matter how durable, blue-silver grass was still only vines and leaves. The power of the spirit fusion ability used by the combined strength of two 40th ranked spirit masters wasn't inferior to the spirit ability of a 60th ranked spirit master. Drifting snow didn't have as tyrannical force of impact as Hell White Tiger, but surpassed it in endurance. Amidst the toothache-inducing and ear-piercing grinding sound, the sticky and tough spider web restraint was already starting to show signs of breaking. Countless snowflakes constantly cut at each corner of Tang San's defense like a meat grinder, and under those sharper-than-knives snowflakes, the outermost layer of defense was very quickly being cut, shattered. What drifting snow had to erode next was Tang San's 10,000-year spirit ring ability, Blue-Silver Prison. When Tang San had only just learned Blue-Silver Prison, at most he could use 7 at once. In resilience, Blue-Silver Prison was inferior to Spiderweb Restraint, but it won out in being able to instantly appear at the opponent's position, and could moreover be used for group control. Along with Tang San's cultivation of 3-aperture governing heart gradually maturing, his skill in using this fourth spirit ability had also increased. This was after all a 10,000-year spirit ring ability, and there were a lot more ways to manipulate it than Spiderweb Restraint. The reason Tang San could fully use more than 10 blue-silver prisons wasn't that his spirit power had increased a lot, but rather because his spirit power was released more accurately each time he used this spirit ability in real combat. In other words, blue-silver prisons that might appear exactly the same could actually have entirely different effects. The more spirit power it used, the more durable it was. Using less spirit power made it weaker. Setting the strength of his own blue-silver prison according to the opponent's differences could greatly save on Tang San's spirit power. Consequently, when discovering the opponents had a spirit fusion ability, Tang San could still create multiple blue-silver prisons to protect everyone. This was already his full strength. The seemingly frail snowflakes came into contact with the outermost layer of blue-silver prison. Unexpectedly, the rigid blue-silver prison was a lot better at resisting the cutting effect of drifting snow than the flexible spiderweb restraint. Flexibility feared sharpness. Sharpness feared firmness. Perhaps this was the cause. If someone could see Shui Bing-er's expression within the blue pillar of light right now, they would certainly discover that it had become very unsightly. Even though she had already estimated Tang San quite highly before this competition, Tang San's adaptability and reaction capability still left her shocked. The spirit fusion ability Drifting Snow was managed by Shui Bing-er, therefore she could clearly sense the resistance when the snowflakes struck. She had seen Tang San create altogether 7 layers of blue-silver prison. Even though the first layer was already broken through by now, Shui Bing-er discovered that if it continued like this, by the time her and Zhu Wu's spirit power was exhausted, they still might not have been able to break Tang San's defensive formation. 10,000-year spirit abilities really weren't ordinary. Even though it was a control type, its defensive power could actually reach this degree. It seemed that even though blue-silver prison wasn't flashy, its practicality could leave people speechless. Having used the spirit fusion ability, if they still couldn't win this match, then how could Skywater Academy have any chance of winning when confronting an even stronger Shrek Academy in the future? A resonant phoenix cry resounded from within the blue pillar of light. Tang San only felt the pressure lighten, as the tornado of cutting snowflakes soared higher into the air. Feeling an even more formidable mental pressure after hearing that clear phoenix cry and feeling the pressure of the attack lighten, Tang San suddenly came to himself. Ice Phoenix, that Shui Bing-er's spirit was actually a first-rate spirit, Ice Phoenix. No wonder her spirit ability control was so powerful, no wonder she could possess a spirit fusion ability. She actually possessed such a tyrannically powerful spirit. Both being phoenixes, The Ice Phoenix wasn't inferior in any respect to Huo Wu's Fire Phoenix. These spirits were two extremes, but both were first-rate existences. In power, Shui Bing-er was even a bit stronger than Huo Wu. But she also possessed a partner for spirit fusion ability, Zhu Wu. In mid-air, the snowflakes gathered, gradually forming into a 7-meter-long enormous blue phoenix. Different from the fourth spirit ability Huo Wu used that day, this ice phoenix appeared extremely distinctly, as if substantial. Bright eyes, long tail feathers, its appearance touching. The dazzlingly beautiful blue phoenix fell from the air, and without fanfare, it became an ice blue light, floating down. Its movements weren't fast, but without advancing, the snowflakes drifting through the air made its body even more substantial. A muffled sigh echoed from within the blue-silver prisons, and a bizarre scene appeared. The remaining blue-silver prisons unexpectedly sunk back into the ground, layer after layer. Even the final protective blue-silver grass was quietly withdrawn by Tang San. Headed by Dai Mabai, besides Tang San, the remaining 6 swiftly dashed off the stage as the Ice Phoenix approached. Only Tang San remained on the stage. Compared to the 7-meter-long Ice Phoenix, Tang San seemed insignificant, as dazzling blue light completely illuminated the platform. Right now, not even the spectators who supported Shrek Academy, supported Tang San, still believed they could win this match. What the spectators understood even less was why Tang San would completely remove his own defensive setup when the opponent was on the verge of attacking. People with a bit of knowledge about spirits could also see that right now, even if Tang San still had spirit power remaining, it absolutely wasn't much. In his current condition, what could he still do? Tang San didn't want to concede the match. He could do it, it wouldn't influence the outcome of the qualifiers, after all. But he didn't want to. For no reason other than that he didn't want to accept defeat. The Ice Phoenix gliding through the air paused, and Shui Bing-er's somewhat angry voice transmitted from the blue light, "Do you want to die? Get away quickly, I won't be able to control it." She was already going all out, and she was already unable to control the energy of the condensed Ice Phoenix. Tang San's face revealed a trace of a slight smiling expression, inwardly saying, "This girl really is kind-hearted. Only, I can't lose. Come." A tearing sound came from behind Tang San's back, as 8 vicious purple-black long lances pushed out. Each lance glittered alternately with blue and red light, the lances thrusting out sharply to either side. 8 sharp points thrust sharply into the ground, raising Tang San's body. It was 8 spider lances. The Ice Phoenix was already out of control. Falling from the sky, tremendous energy poured down. Cold streams burst out, long since locked completely on Tang San. The spirit fusion ability Drifting Snow was extremely powerful. When used, it would immediately lock onto the opponent. But at this moment, a bizarre scene appeared. 8 spider lances bent sharply, before shooting out again, sending Tang San soaring into the air like a cannonball. He, unexpectedly ignoring the cold streams, broke through that Ice Phoenix and the locked-on energy, rising more than 20 meters into the air. The stage was already icebound, instantly covered in a layer of blue luster. The next moment, with a loud rumble, it completely collapsed. Even the few remaining Skywater Academy members with water element capabilities rushed to leap off the moment it began to fall. This could be said to be the most destructive scene since the start of the qualifiers, and also the most dazzling one. Unfortunately, it didn't successfully hit its intended target. The appearance of 8 spider lances made Tang San feel full of energy again, supported by the power of the external spirit bone. When he fell from the back, 8 spider lances had already quietly withdrawn into his back. The entire vast Heaven Do Great Spirit Arena was already covered in a thin layer of frost. Gust after gust of cold made the spectators' expressions rigid. Standing in the ruins of the stage, Shui Bing-er managed to stand with Zhu Wu's support. Looking at Tang San falling from the sky, there was a burst of despondency in her eyes. She didn't understand how something like this would happen. How her and Zhu Wu's spirit fusion ability, further adding her own spirit's power, was unable to defeat the gently landing opponent. Drifting snow's cold was enough to make anyone slow down. In that split second before, the temperature on the stage had dropped to a frightening level, and further adding the control of the cold streams, she refused to believe that any spirit master under 60th rank could break through and escape its attack range. But that man had accomplished it. His movements looked effortless, as if he didn't use any strength. But only Shui Bing-er herself knew just how difficult it was to escape drifting snow. The two young women's faces were now pale, spirit power overdraft making it very difficult for them to even stand. Tang San had already landed in the ruins, and step by step walked towards them. Even though his spirit power fluctuations were already weak, as long as she thought of the close combat fighting ability he displayed before, Shui Bing-er knew it would be impossible for her and Zhu Wu to defeat him. By now, only 3 people still remained on the stage. The outcome was already settled. Can't you tell me how? Shui Bing-er said somewhat bitterly. Tang San stopped 3 meters in front of the 2 women. The alarming-looking 8 spider lances had been withdrawn even before people could see them clearly. But he knew that in this match, he had still lost. Having been pushed by the opponents to use 8 spider lances that should only appear in the finals, he believed his people had already lost. Obtaining victory in this match wasn't the contribution of 8 spider lances, nor was it his contribution. It was the effect of taking those 2 immortal treasure herbs. The tempering of the infernal precious apricot as well as the octagonal mysterious ice grass made him completely immune to all cold and hot energies. If Shui Bing-er had used another attribute spirit fusion ability, then at that time, when Tang San was already out of spirit power, he would be unable to win even if he used 8 spider lances. Therefore, in his heart, he believed he had lost. He hadn't lost in strength, but rather in adaptability and foresight. The continuous victories had made it difficult for the Shrek Academy team members not to be proud, and even Tang San was no exception. After all, he was still human, and he was as susceptible to emotions as anyone else. Before today's match, he had drawn an equals sign between Skywater Academy and Blazing Academy. But who could have expected that Shui Bing-er's control could actually restrain him like that, and even possessed such a formidable ability like the spirit fusion ability? Confronted by Shui Bing-er's inquiry, Tang San didn't conceal it. He not only thought he had lost because of himself, but also because of Shui Bing-er's kindness. That moment before the Ice Phoenix descended, he could clearly feel the concern in Shui Bing-er's words. That wasn't concern for victory and defeat, but rather true worry that he would be hurt. I'm capable of ice immunity. Therefore, your ability was unable to restrain me. Tang San used a voice only the 3 of them could hear. 2 pairs of beautiful eyes watched him attentively, a trace of bitterness at the corner of Shui Bing-er's mouth. Then how were you restrained by me before? Shui Bing-er couldn't help asking. If her first spirit ability, Icebind, was effective on Tang San, then how come the Ice Phoenix lock wasn't? Tang San laughed bitterly. My ice and fire immunity is only effective on energies. Substantial shapes and energy shocks will still injure me. Your ice binding had solid form, not an energy form. Of course I would be restrained. Just that the chill within wouldn't injure me. We've lost. However, willing to admit it, Shui Bing-er still with difficulty spoke these words. Tang San shook his head, saying, No, it should be our loss. It was my mistake that led to this conclusion. My ice and fire resistance doesn't originate in cultivation. Right now, the referee had already cautiously approached. Even if he was an official with 50-something ranked strength, right now he was still somewhat apprehensive. The current young generation was really too ferocious. If by some chance they still had some skills they hadn't used, he himself might also be implicated. Finished, the referee looked at both sides. Tang San and Shui Bing-er nodded simultaneously, speaking in unison. I lost. The referee, baffled, looked at the 2. You. Tang San spoke first. This match is a tie. Both our sides have already exhausted our spirit power. We can't continue the match. The referee then suddenly understood. Even if a tied match was rare, it still wasn't unheard of. Immediately, he declared that the fight between Shrek Academy and Skywater Academy ended in a tie. He could win and not. This was Tang San's stern warning to himself. The qualifiers were only the beginning. There was still the ranking competition, as well as the qualifiers where powers would stand like trees in the forest. Discovering his flaws now was always better than discovering him even later in the tournament. After all, the finals were a knockout competition. No mistakes could be tolerated there. The spectators were no doubt disappointed, the majority of the spectators supporting Shrek Academy, but being unable to see them take the victory in the final match made a lot of people rather critical. Especially voices that doubted whether Shrek Academy had sent their full strength echoed from all corners. Returning to the rest area, Tang San ate a recovery sausage Oscar handed over. "I'm sorry, it was my mistake. I underestimated the opponent from the start of the match, and couldn't deliver relevant tactics, leading to our later passivity." Dai Mabai clapped Tang San's shoulder. "Brother, what are you doing saying this? It's more important we find the root of defeat. Don't forget, we're still young, and right now we can still stand to be defeated. You've already done very well, nobody will blame you." Ma Hongjun took the opportunity to move closer, grinning. "Third brother, don't be depressed. This is because you brothers didn't have me there. If I was there, how could those beauties be arrogant? Next time let them get to know my phoenix flame. Just what is called, failure is the mother of success. Moreover, we still didn't lose. You also didn't go all out. No, actually, not just you, even Dai Mabai, Xiao Wu and the others also didn't use their full strength. We still need you to lead everyone to become ultimate champions." Dai Mabai raised his hand and swatted Fatty's head. "You're so capable. Fine, then next time you go up by yourself, we'll watch how you alone roast 7. Ma Hongjun rubbed his head, wrong saying, "Don't blame me for comforting third brother. Failure is the mother of success, these words are quite right. There's 1 month to the ranking competition. This is plenty of time for you all to find your own deficiencies." Grandmaster had already come over before anyone noticed, his gaze falling on Tang San, looking at him with a smile. "Teacher." Confronted by Grandmaster's gaze, Tang San lowered his head. Grandmaster walked up to his side, one hand resting on his shoulder. "Actually, the result of your match today is even better than your victories. I've always said that real combat is the best way to inspect your own abilities. Only by constant combat, confronting different opponents, will you grow even faster. The Spirit Master vocation comes in all kinds of bizarre variations. Nobody knows what kind of enemy you will face in your next battle. All you can do is increase your experience by facing different Spirit Masters. None of you lack talent as Spirit Masters, and the opponents you meet in the Continental Advanced Spirit Master Academy Elite Tournament are also all well-known figures of the young generation. This match is only a fragment of your lives. You still have a long road to walk. As long as you gain something, victory or defeat is of little consequence." "Yes, Grandmaster," all the students answered as one. Their previously somewhat different expressions once again became unanimous. For some reason, the otherwise always mild-mannered Tang San now had an extreme thirst for victory in his heart. The Heaven Do City qualifiers had now ended, and according to the sequence, it was time for the reward ceremony, awarding the top 5 teams the qualification proof for the ranking competition. But due to the damage to the central stage in the previous match, this process was also simplified. The other academies that didn't advance wouldn't participate in the awards ceremony. Only the top 5 teams would go up to accept their rewards on the VIP seating platform. The ceremony wasn't complex. At the announcer's declaration, the captain and vice-captain of the top-ranking teams stepped onto the platform. Due to Godwind Academy and Thunderclap Academy having the same result, both with 26 wins and 1 loss, and Godwind Academy once having prevailed over Thunderclap Academy, the ranking was settled as Godwind Academy ranked first, Thunderclap Academy second, Shrek Academy ranked third with 24 wins, 1 tie and 2 losses. Blazing Academy ranked 4th with half a victory more than Skywater Academy, and Skywater Academy still 5th. Representing Shrek Academy to go up on the platform was Dai Mabai and Tang San. As the two stepped onto the platform, they immediately sensed several malicious gazes. The most burning among them was Blazing Academy's Huo Wu. She had never accepted being defeated by Tang San, and didn't reflect on her own strength, but rather blamed Tang San's fire immunity. Even though Blazing Academy successfully advanced, being pushed down by Shrek Academy with half a victory stirred up the fury in her heart even stronger. Next, His Majesty and 7 treasure glazed tile pagoda master as well as Platinum Bishop Salas will personally award the proof of qualifications to enter the ranking competition as well as the award money. The proof of qualifications was actually a personal letter. There was no worry anyone would forge it. After all, Spirit Hall and Heaven Do Empire both knew which academies had advanced. But Tang San and Dai Mabai didn't know about the award money before. The award money the top 5 academies received was the same. After all, this was only the qualifiers. Each team received 10,000 gold spirit coins issued by Heaven Do Empire. But in the finals, the prize for the final 3 was awarded by Spirit Hall. The awards presented, the announcer gave the word to Emperor Zhu Yi in the seat of honor. Emperor Zhu Yi's gaze swept across the members of the teams standing in front of him. His eyes especially paused on Tang San for a few seconds, then smiling said, "First of all, children, I want to congratulate you. You've successfully obtained the qualifications to advance in this Continental Advanced Spirit Master Academy Elite Tournament. As the most senior ruler of Heaven Do Empire, I am proud of you. You are all the future hope of the Empire, and as the leaders of each team, your strength has also showed its most important effect in the competition. Therefore, I've decided to confer upon the 10 of you the title of Viscount, and to the other competing members of your 5 academies the title of Baron. After you have graduated, the gates of the royal household will stand open to you at any time. Your fiefdoms will all be allocated after your graduation. Your Majesty, that won't do." Salas suddenly interjected harshly from the side. Daring to interrupt an emperor's words, this clearly showed the tremendous influence of Spirit Hall. Emperor Zhu Yi looked indifferently at Salas. "Is there something inappropriate?" "Your Eminence Bishop Salas," Salas said, "in past competitions, there's no precedent of awarding titles of nobility. Even more, aren't the titles given too high? Whether it was Heaven Do Empire or Star Luo Empire, the titles of nobility were ranked from the highest as Duke, Marquis, Count, Viscount, Baron. Handing out 10 noble titles of Viscount just for the qualifiers, Emperor Zhu Yi's generosity was enough to shock anyone in attendance. Emperor Zhu Yi only used one sentence to shut Salas up. "Your Eminence, conferring titles of nobility is an internal matter of the Empire, unrelated to Spirit Hall. Unrelated to the current tournament. I only admire these children and accorded them some rewards, that's all. They represent our Heaven Do Empire in this time's Advanced Spirit Master Academy tournament. I will also give you a pledge here. If there is any team among you that can obtain final victory in the tournament, the noble titles of everyone in the team will be promoted 1 level, and at the same time the Academy will be given the Imperial prefix, receiving the financial backing of the Empire. As the leaders of their teams, even if these youths had all seen some of the world, as Emperor Zhu Yi's great string of rewards smashed down, they were still left somewhat stupid. What did titles of nobility represent? A Viscount could already possess their own territory and attendants, and still draw a certain stipend from the Empire. This sum alone was enough to live on. Even though a lot of spirit masters had titles of nobility, obtaining them from kingdoms and duchies was easy. Obtaining an imperial title wasn't so simple, especially being directly conferred the title of Viscount. The territory a Viscount could possess was already a small town. Even more valuable, Emperor Zhu Yi had already guaranteed to these 10 that after the end of this tournament, they would directly be conferred fiefdoms. In other words, their titles absolutely weren't just empty words, but rather truly nobles with territory. Salus' expression appeared very unsightly. He didn't say anything else, but in his eyes was a cold and cruel expression. As the captains and vice-captains of the 5 qualified teams, they were all elite young spirit masters, one more intelligent than the other, and from Emperor Zhu Yi's promise and Salus' protest, they could all sense the smell of gunpowder contained within. Ning Fengji only sat smiling and silent to the side. Apparently all this was unrelated to him. Emperor Zhu Yi basically didn't seem to notice Platinum Bishop Salus' ugly expression, and smiling said, "Next is the ranking competition, also held by the Empire. But the location will change from Heaven Du Great Spirit Arena to the Imperial Household Hunting Grounds. At that time, the 10 teams from the 5 kingdoms and duchies will come to jointly conduct the ranking competition with you. I hope that your 5 academies will rank among the best, holding the best opportunity in the finals. The ranking competition is the best stage to show your own strength. When the time comes, for the 3 students that obtain the highest number of victories in the ranking competition, the Empire will furnish the Spirit Beast for your next title promotion. You can choose what type you want, and the Empire will guarantee a Spirit Beast under 30,000 years cultivation. Whether Shrek Academy or the 4 Elemental Academies, Emperor Zhu Yi's current pledge made their hearts beat even faster than the previous noble titles. Even Tang San couldn't help feeling his pulse quicken. In fact, these 10 Academy team leaders all had 40th ranked or so strength. Their next title advancement would be at 50th ranked. Even though the 50th ranked Spirit Ring wasn't as important as the 30th, 50th rank was still the first level where a 10,000-year Spirit Ring could be obtained. How strong the first 10,000-year Spirit Ring was would have enormous influence on all of their futures. If they could freely choose the Spirit Beast they required, it would no doubt hold enormous benefit. Not only wouldn't they need to take risks or waste time, but they could also display their own spirit to the greatest degree. From 50th rank and on, a Spirit Master's cultivation speed would drop substantially. Having a guarantee for their first 10,000-year Spirit Ring could undoubtedly let them keep a strong advantage from 50th to 60th rank. The benefits to their future growth would be boundless. Seeing the gradually rising flames in the eyes of the 10 elites, Emperor Zhu Yi smiled calmly. The ranking competition will be held in 1 month. I hope you can make even further breakthroughs in this month. Good. I won't say more. You are all intelligent children. I think you will make the most intelligent choices. Finished speaking, Emperor Zhu Yi's gaze deviated a moment, sweeping across Platinum Bishop Salus' face. Then, under the protection of his imperial high officials, he turned and left. Salus' expression twitched slightly, but his expression had already completely calmed, nothing to be seen of the ugliness from before. Just as Emperor Zhu Yi said, even though he didn't state it clearly, the Academy team leaders all understood his meaning. The Empire and Spirit Hall, pick the first. Tang San's heart twitched slightly. What Emperor Zhu Yi said today didn't seem to be something a monarch should say. Spirit Hall was so powerful, could it be Emperor Zhu Yi wanted to make a show of force? In other words, had the conflict between Heaven Du Empire and Spirit Hall already reached a condition that couldn't be reconciled? It was better not to participate in these political matters. He didn't know about others, but his own road was already very clear-cut, and could easily be summarized in one word: freedom. Tang San had set very clear-cut goals for himself, the limit of his spirit, the limit of Tang Sect. Tang San and Dai Mabai walked out of Heaven Du Great Spirit Arena together. The others waited for them outside. At this moment, an abrupt voice suddenly called out for Tang San. Tang San. Tang San turned his head to look, only to see something red growing larger in his vision, recognizable to him as Huo Wu. What do you want? Tang San puzzled asked. Huo Wu reached him in several steps, directly walking until she stood less than a meter from Tang San. It had to be said that confronting Huo Wu held quite a bit of pressure. Because her height was quite outstanding among girls, right now she was even a bit taller than Tang San. In fact, along with absorbing the 10,000-year level pit demon spider as his 4th spirit ring, Tang San's body was already more developed than his contemporaries. Right now his height was close to 1.80 meters, and Huo Wu was precisely 1.80 meters. Huo Wu gazed at this not particularly outstanding appearance, always seeming even-tempered. Tang San, have you got the courage to fight me without spirits? Tang San stared blankly a moment, the Shrek Academy group next to him all smiling. They were all very clear on Tang San's physical combat ability, and Tai Long had once raised this request to him, the result leaving his head and face in the dirt. Shaking his head, Tang San said, I don't have the spare time. The pupils of Huo Wu's eyes suddenly contracted. Isn't your close combat ability very strong? Brows wrinkling, Tang San fixed his eyes on Huo Wu. Looking at this just like a flame woman, he once again repeated, I'm sorry, I don't have the spare time. Finished speaking, he turned and walked toward the Shrek Academy party, without wanting to get further involved with Huo Wu. You go to hell. Temper stretched to the limit, the fury Huo Wu had restrained for several days finally erupted. Her right leg snapped out, going straight for the back of Tang San's head. With her height, her legs were long, and she moved like lightning. Distinguishing sounds was the most basic capability at Tang Sect. How would Tang San let her easily do as she wished? Taking a quick step forward, half turning, left hand shooting out, he directly grabbed Huo Wu's ankle. Huo Wu only felt the momentum of her kick disappear like a clay ox entering the sea, instantly vanishing like smoke with a slight quiver of Tang San's arm. Tang San's hand gripped her leg like a vice, and no matter how she exerted herself, she was unable to withdraw it. That left hand had already turned the color and luster of sheep-fat jade. Raising the right hand, pushing up Huo Wu's long leg, taking a step towards Huo Wu, right foot naturally stepping behind Huo Wu's supporting right leg, simultaneously bending forward, directly striking Huo Wu's raised thigh. Movements as natural as moving clouds and flowing water, smoothly finding the weak point, left Huo Wu without any opportunity to react before she had already been sent flying by Tang San, falling into the embrace of the just-arrived Huo Wushwang. Tang San didn't use much strength, amply displaying controlling crane-catching dragon's method to use strength against itself. Let's go. Tang San swept the Shrek Academy group who were all looking at Huo Wu getting pushed around with schadenfreude, then left with large strides. I'll kill him. Huo Wu wanted to rush out again after being caught by her big brother, but was forcefully restrained by Huo Wushwang. Don't waste your breath, you aren't his match. Sighing, Huo Wushwang firmly pulled back his little sister. He could of course see that Tang San had already started off leniently. Gee, the rims of Huo Wu's eyes reddened. She really was somewhat unable to bear having her competitive nature once again being given a blow by the same person. The 5 orders of nobility are from the most senior to least: Duke, Marquis, Count, Viscount, Baron. Volume 16. Consummate Fusion. Chapter 107. Truly common blue-silver grass. Huo Wushwang sighed. Silly little sister, if you really want to beat him, then you have to cultivate ceaselessly, rely on your own strength to win. What use is there to senselessly make trouble like this? Work hard, we still have a chance in the ranking competition. To face an opponent that restrains us completely, we'll have to think of some new methods. Even though he's immune to fire, he can't be immune to energy attacks, or did you forget what Shui Bing did? That's right, there's still me. Little sister Huo Wu, I didn't encounter him in the qualifiers, but once we've reached the ranking competition, I'll definitely help you beat him. Feng Shaoshan had come over from somewhere without anyone noticing, speaking with a face full of righteous indignation. Returning directly to the academy from Heaven Du Great Spirit Arena, Tang San's mind was still constantly replaying the whole process of today's confrontation with Skywater Academy. To him, this wasn't just a simple tie. This was the most difficult challenge in the whole qualifiers. It was admittedly because the opponent's spirit fusion ability was especially familiar, but at the same time, this difficulty was also because they were restrained from the start. Tang San clearly saw that it was because of him that the whole team had been at a disadvantage. Shui Bing taking the control had destroyed his original plans. At the same time, it had also finally let him experience the formidability of other control system spirit masters. Next was the ranking competition, which was a stage for people to show off. But, after that came the finals, and that was still a team battle. Any spirit master had flaws, and he was no exception. Only by a team complementing each other could a spirit master's strength be revealed to its greatest degree. This had always been a natural law of the spirit master world. That was also an important reason why this Continental Advanced Spirit Master Academy Elite Tournament relied mainly on team battles. He didn't think much of Emperor Zhu Yi's olive branch. That wasn't a question he should consider yet. What he needed to think about right now was how he could help his team even more, how to let his own strength grow even more powerful. Tang San had always been a stubborn person. It was true in his previous life at Tang Sect, and it was still true in this world. Consequently, after returning to the academy, he immediately went to Grandmaster to propose he go into closed-door cultivation for a time, in order to think about some things. Grandmaster was understanding, and also understood that this was an important phase to Tang San. As long as he could pierce through this barrier in his heart, he would mature even more, and also become even more formidable. At this time there was nobody that could help him. The only one he could rely on was himself. Only his own understanding, comprehension, could he solve his own problems. Even a wise man like Grandmaster couldn't reply with anything that would have any better effect right now. That wall within was different for each person, and nobody could know what problems others faced. Tang San's problems could only be settled by Tang San himself. Watching Tang San's gradually disappearing back, the other 6 Shrek 7 devils couldn't help feeling somewhat lonely. They also understood Tang San's current feelings. Ever since the formation of the team, even though today's match wasn't their most challenging, to Tang San it was still truly a suppressed battle. They could completely understand Tang San's mood. Xiao Wu wanted to catch up to and comfort Tang San, but was held back by Lu Erlong. Silly girl, don't go disturb him right now. It's better if he can understand on his own. Believe in him. Give him a little space. Xiao Wu looked at Lu Erlong. Lu Erlong softly pulled her into her embrace, gently stroking her long braid. Grandmaster coughed once, attracting everyone's attention. Well, Tang San has gone into seclusion. The next month is also a time for you to get into shape. This past month of high-density matches has had different degrees of benefit for each of you. But this is still far from enough. I think you've all seen that you're not the only talents in this world. Tang San has met an opponent that restrains him, and you will also do the same. You're all as one. In order to help prevail and obtain the ultimate victory, you will have to pay even more. Therefore, I've decided that in the next month's recuperation interlude, I will once again conduct a period of strengthening training for you. What are those faces for? Stand up properly. If anyone has any objections, I don't mind doubling the training. Blood-curdling screams echoed simultaneously in the hearts of the Shrek 6 devils. Right now they suddenly envied Tang San. At least, in seclusion Tang San didn't need to undergo any more hell training. The place Tang San chose for his seclusion was still that log cabin in the middle of the forest. The secluded surroundings, the quiet world, was most suitable for his cultivation. When he'd already spent 2 days here, Tang San still sat vacantly. He didn't cultivate, his mind always enveloped in a dense fog. He couldn't find any way out of his problems, and he also didn't understand in what direction he should grow. He even doubted whether the control system route he'd walked until now wasn't a mistake. In 2 days Tang San had thought a lot, but the more he thought, the more confused he became. 2 days and 2 nights had passed, he didn't even rest, not eating anything, completely passing the time in this kind of hazy condition. This kind of painful feeling wreaked havoc in his heart. He didn't even know why he was in pain. Ever since the day he became a spirit master, he had always stood at the summit of his peers. Blue silver grass wasn't any formidable spirit, it was even a trash spirit, but cultivating under Grandmaster guidance, his strength had never been below those spirit masters of his age who possessed more formidable spirits. He was even ahead of everyone. As time had passed, Tang San had even already forgotten about the issues of his blue-silver grass. He'd always stood on equal footing with spirit masters with formidable spirits. He'd even felt somewhat superior. However, now that he calmed down and thought it over, he discovered that if it wasn't for having the external spirit bone 8 spider lances, if it wasn't for always having the support of his comrades at his side and his luck in obtaining those spirit rings, perhaps he wouldn't be much of anything. Each of his spirit rings were of better quality than other people's, but in his previous confrontation with Shui Bing-er, it couldn't be said his spirit abilities held any advantage. Perhaps these kinds of circumstances should have appeared before. Only in previous matches and fights, he had always used tactics to cover up this gap. But after blue-silver grass's own defects were revealed, Tang San immediately discovered his problem. A truly formidable control system spirit master needed not only control, but also spirit abilities with a certain attack capability. Shui Bing-er's spirit fusion ability was even better quality. However, could his blue-silver grass do that? No. Even if he already possessed a 10,000-year spirit ring at 40th rank, without really using his external spirit bone, he didn't have any advantage of Shui Bing-er. Rather than saying that his previous opponents had lost in strength, it would be better to say they had lost in tactics. Once an opponent appeared who wasn't below him in planning, then the flaws of his control would immediately be exposed. This was still when he had taken the octagonal mysterious ice grass and infernal precious apricot. If he didn't have these two immortal treasure herbs, perhaps his weakness would have been exposed even earlier. Even Huo Wu could have easily beaten him. Why is it like this? Don't tell me all these years of effort have been a waste. Tang San very clearly understood that the innate flaws of a spirit would gradually appear along with the growth of spirit power. No, it can't go on like this. Blue-silver grass basically isn't a good spirit. I'm still young, there's still time to give it up. Tang San couldn't hold back the thoughts of his other spirit, Clear Sky Hammer. The hereditary spirit of one of the Spirit Master World's 7 great schools, Clear Sky School. If he had chosen to cultivate the Clear Sky Hammer from the start, then his current strength wouldn't just be like this. He could only become more formidable. The more he thought, the lower Tang San's confidence in blue-silver grass became. His heart was just like a raging sea, all kinds of chaotic thoughts making him feel somewhat crazy. 2 days had passed, without any cultivation. In the past this was something Tang San couldn't even have imagined, that was how diligent he was. However, right now he didn't have a trace of desire to cultivate. Little freak. A green silhouette appeared in the yard outside, the sudden voice snapping Tang San out of his whirlpool of suffering. Perhaps it was because these 2 days had consumed too much mental strength, but even though that voice sounded familiar, Tang San still couldn't make out who it belonged to. Standing, Tang San walked out of the cabin. After sitting too long, as the glaring sunshine hit him, he couldn't keep from swaying a moment. Little freak, what's going on? In practically the next moment, the green silhouette was already in front of Tang San, one powerful hand directly clasping Tang San's shoulder, mellow spirit power somewhat overbearing and somewhat coarsely penetrating his body, rousing Tang San's mind somewhat. Then he clearly saw who it was. It wasn't a stranger, but rather Shrek Academy's honorary dean, one of the formidable titled Douluo Dalu. Douluo looked doubtfully at Tang San. Right now Tang San's appearance was somewhat scary, his hair in a mess, his facial hair unkempt, both eyes bloodshot, a completely dispirited appearance. Old freak, you're back. Managing to squeeze out a smile, the spirit power within Tang San's body operated automatically, clearing his rigid blood vessels, letting him stand upright. Douluo doubtfully said, "Little freak, what's going on? Weren't you still well when I left? How would you become like this in a few days? Come on, let's go inside first." Dragging Tang San into the log cabin, Douluo's expression was somewhat serious. He could of course see how lacking Tang San's mental state was right now. As a formidable title Douluo, he was only too clear on the cultivation circumstances of spirit masters, and Tang San's current condition was extremely dangerous. In case of a nervous breakdown, he would either go insane or be totally ruined. Little freak, tell me, what actually happened to strike you into this kind of appearance? In my memory, you little freak was always a freak among freaks. Don't tell me you met someone even more freakish than you. Looking at Douluo, the rims of Tang San's eyes suddenly reddened somewhat. Grandmaster absolutely hadn't expected his current condition. After all, nobody knew Tang San was a person of two lives. His mind was far beyond his peers, but it was also because of this that it was even easier for him to get stuck bashing his head against a brick wall. Douluo's appearance made Tang San recover somewhat. Especially his mind had a somewhat hopeful feeling. Old freak, can you tell me, if I cultivate my spirit power beyond the 70th rank, will I still be as far ahead as I am now? Douluo's brows puckered. Why would you ask that? Little freak, what happened to your confidence? What's actually gotten into you? You should understand how important confidence is to a spirit master. If you don't have the most elementary confidence, if you don't believe in yourself, then later you won't make even a centimeter of progress. Tang San smiled wryly. But, I don't know what I should do. The spirit I'm cultivating is just blue silver grass. Even though I've already reached the 40th rank, as my level increases, blue silver grass's weaknesses will be revealed more and more clearly. In the future, can I really rely on this spirit to contend with other spirit masters? A jade light flickered in Douluo's eyes, staring at Tang San with a burning gaze. Go on. Tang San said, the reason why I'm considered powerful among my peers right now isn't because of the strength of my spirit, but rather because I have better spirit rings than ordinary spirit masters, and even have the external spirit bone 8 spider lances. You should also have seen my second spirit before. I don't need to hide anything from you. My second spirit is Clear Sky School's Clear Sky Hammer. Right now I'm thinking that if I cultivated the Clear Sky Hammer instead, then wouldn't the circumstances be different? Right now I have 40th level spirit power. I only need 4 spirit rings that suit me to be able to bring out the Clear Sky Hammer's strength. It's far more formidable than blue silver grass. Even though I'm still not 15, I've already spent far too much effort on cultivating. I don't want to waste my later effort on a trash spirit like blue silver grass. Does that make sense? Who was Douluo? Anyone who could become a title Douluo power was highly intelligent. From Tang San's simpler and agitated words, he had already gradually understood the problem Tang San faced right now. Waving his hand, he didn't let Tang San speak further. Douluo looked Tang San in the eyes, sternly saying, Little freak, do you know why I've always considered you a freak among freaks? Tang San stared blankly. Is it because of my knowledge in using poison? Douluo shook his head, saying, that's only a small part. Even more significant is your blue-silver grass. The pupils of Tang San's eyes contracted violently. Looking at Douluo, his eyes revealed deep doubt. Douluo indifferently said, that's right, blue-silver grass is a trash spirit. Moreover, it's the best-known trash spirit. In the past, it was basically impossible for anyone who possessed blue-silver grass as spirit to have the chance to cultivate. But, you, tell me, what were the circumstances when your spirit awakened? I heard Grandmaster say it was full innate spirit power, right? Tang San nodded. What does full innate spirit power signify? It signifies the foundation of the spirit. Even my own granddaughter, who inherited by Jade Phosphor Serpent Spirit, only had 7th ranked innate spirit power. And you had 10th ranked. And moreover, you still cultivate blue-silver grass. What does this signify? It means your blue-silver grass is different from the masses. That's not simple blue-silver grass. You can also guess who your father is. Think, with your father's background and strength, would he be together with a woman who only possessed common blue-silver grass? If it really was common blue-silver grass, how would it produce a little freak with twin spirits like you? Tang San was naturally deaf to Douluo's explanation of full innate spirit power, because he always believed that it was the result of his own diligently cultivated mysterious heaven skill, and not bestowed by blue silver grass. Even more, at the time he awakened he also had a clear sky hammer. Even if the spirit truly had assigned him some spirit power, that should also be from clear sky hammer. However, Douluo Dalu's later words made him somewhat startled. Yes, his blue silver grass really was somewhat uncommon, especially not long ago when he had the feeling of being in contact with the natural wild blue silver grass. That throbbing came from his spirit itself. Just that no one had ever cultivated blue silver grass to his present degree, Tang San also didn't know whether this was something that blue silver grass should be doing. But it was Douluo Dalu's last words that touched him the most. It was also an important question he'd always had. His father was a directly related disciple of Clear Sky School, and also one of their greatest powers. Would a woman who only possessed the waste blue silver grass spirit be with him? Old freak, is there any relation between the strength of the parents' spirits and twin spirits? Tang San's breathing had clearly become hurried. Douluo Dalu grinned, saying, "In this field, perhaps the teacher of yours doesn't even know. Even though his spirit research is very thorough, you're after all the first person he's met who has twin spirits. Before, I once read some top-secret information in Spirit Hall. It was a written account of twin spirits. Spirits are hereditary, generally coming from the parents, so tell me, what's the relation between inheriting the parents' spirits?" Having followed Grandmaster for so many years, this kind of question naturally wasn't difficult for Tang San, and he answered without the slightest hesitation. Generally speaking, the spirit inherited is the relatively more powerful one of the parents' spirits. Douluo Dalu went on. Then when there's hardly any difference in strength between the spirits, or even when they're identical, what will happen? Tang San said, under such circumstances, it will be inherited randomly, but under such circumstances there's also a higher chance of spirit variation. Douluo Dalu nodded, saying, worthy of being Grandmaster's disciple, your explanation is quite right. But, do you know, what are the odds of twin spirits appearing under such circumstances? The reason twin spirits are so rare is because the conditions are so harsh. This is what's written in Spirit Hall's records. The birth of twin spirits mainly has two preconditions. First, the parents' spirits can't be identical. The more they differ, the higher the odds of bringing about twin spirits. At the same time, the closer the quality of both sides' spirits, the higher the odds of bringing about twin spirits. In other words, if there's a gap in quality between the spirits, it's basically impossible to birth a child with twin spirits. Even if these conditions are met, the probability of issue with twin spirits is only 1 in 1,000, or even 1 in 10,000. Understand, Tang San was clever. Even though his mental state wasn't very good right now, he still very quickly caught on to what Douluo Dalu meant. Douluo Dalu was using this example to tell him his blue-silver grass spirit absolutely wasn't simple. Capable of possessing qualitative parity with clear sky hammer, what kind of blue-silver grass was that? According to Grandmaster's research, twin spirits was a kind of spirit variation, only the circumstances in which it arose were really too rare, and therefore so very few had appeared on the continent. Douluo Dalu's analysis wasn't bad, and Tang San immediately recalled the other two cases of twin spirits Grandmaster had talked about. Sure enough, the quality of the twin spirits really was extremely similar. The originally vacant heart once again became burning hot. Tang San's eyes finally began to focus again. Douluo Dalu unhappily glared at him, saying, even if your blue-silver grass's quality wasn't good, do you think that really matters? How old are you this year? Still not even 15, but already 40th rank. Your present worries are matters for later. Since you could obtain formidable spirit rings and spirit bones to pull open the distance with equally ranked spirit masters before, don't tell me you couldn't do it again. No effort is wasted. If you don't have even this much confidence, then you're not freakish, but rubbish. Correct. If you cultivated clear sky hammer now, your strength would indeed start rising again in a short time. As long as you have suitable spirit rings, you will immediately become powerful, even more powerful than 50 or 60th ranked spirit masters. But, haven't you considered, if you began cultivating Clear Sky Hammer at 90th rank, getting 9 spirit rings, what quality would they be? At that time, even if getting 900,000 year spirit rings at the same time wouldn't be impossible. Even if blue silver grass was no good, it would still be enough to push you to that level. It wouldn't be too late to prepare at that time. With your present cultivation speed, perhaps you will break your father's record of becoming the youngest titled Douluo. What's the rush? Douluo clearly didn't know about the deadliness of twin spirits, but his arguments were clear and easy to see. Yes, I could obtain external strength before, why couldn't I do it later? When others have 10,000 year spirit rings, I have a 20,000 year spirit ring. When others have 50,000 year spirit rings, I'll get 100,000 year. Relying on the effect of spirit rings can also pull closer the gap between me and the quality of others' spirits. What's more, right now I still have a spirit bone to trade. Aren't these also my own advantages? The disorder in his mind gradually left, and the fog in his heart quietly dissipated. Right now, the only question that still remained was how to make himself stronger. Douluo looked at Tang San's changing expression and knew this little freak had already figured out a lot from his pointer. Leaning back in his chair, he smiled. Little freak, do you know where I went this time? Tang San snapped. How could I know what an old freak like you is up to? Along with his mood recovering, he clearly became a lot more relaxed. Douluo grinned, saying, I went to exchange pointers with an old friend. Win or lose? Tang San asked. The green light in Douluo's eyes became agitated. I didn't win, and I didn't lose, it was at least a draw. Ha ha, Tang San mocked. Only a draw, what's there to be proud about? Douluo curled his lip, saying, you know farts. Every time I fought that fellow before I would be beaten into the dirt, battered and exhausted. If I didn't rely on poison, I would be dead long ago. But this time he was the dirty one. Were it not for this old man being compassionate and merciful, perhaps I'd have killed him. Tang San started. If Douluo said this, then his opponent was definitely a titled Douluo. Otherwise, how could Douluo be beaten ragged? Your strength progressed, Douluo said with immense pride. That's not it. This fellow's spirit power has reached 96th rank, considered an expert among titled Douluo, with even more astonishing power behind him. This time he almost fell. You tell me how I couldn't be excited. Of course, this was also thanks to you. Me? How is it related to me? That was a 96th ranked titled Douluo, I'm 40-something ranked. Douluo grinned. Still remember those cluster soul chasing life taking balls you gave me? Really can't know without using, but they scared me out of my skin. This time it should have been me who lost. At that time, I was already forced back and prepared to run, but I suddenly remembered that nice thing you gave me. So I pulled it out and used it. I didn't expect that thing to really be so scarily powerful. That idiot ate at least 7 or 8 poison darts, and all of a sudden it let me turn the tables. In the end he had no choice but to take to his heels and run. Ha 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 ha. Thinking back at the happy sight, Douluo couldn't help laughing. Cluster soul chasing life taking balls. Tang San hadn't used them since he made these hidden weapons. Suddenly, a great flash of divine light lit up his mind, his brain suddenly becoming sharp. Hidden weapons. Hidden weapons, I'm from Tang Sect, I have hidden weapons. That's right, blue silver grass might not be a formidable spirit, but just like teacher said, its plasticity is still extraordinarily formidable. If I can combine NY blue silver grass with the hidden weapons I inherited from Tang Sect, then, what will the result be? His heart suddenly throbbed breathlessly. Tang San swallowed a big gulp of saliva. His mind was already impatiently reflecting on how he should combine blue silver grass with the mysteries of his hidden weapon secret lore. Douluo saw Tang San suddenly tremble after hearing about him using the cluster soul chasing life taking balls. He immediately became lifeless, and also couldn't help start. Little freak, what is it? Ah, it's nothing. Old freak, thank you for enlightening me. I've already figured it out. Douluo assumed the appearance of a capable person, Me saving you can't be free of charge. I already used up those cluster soul-chasing life-taking balls. Don't you still have some? Give me another 2. I can trade for something. Or pay. Tang San stared at Douluo. Trade farts, take them. 4 dark green spheres flew straight at Douluo. Douluo was so scared he jumped, flustered, catching the 4 cluster soul-chasing life-taking balls, grumbling, "Stinking brat, are you after my old life? What if they exploded? Are you after my old life?" Tang San smiled. If I didn't have even this much confidence, how could I even make them? Moreover, with my spirit power, even if they really exploded, could they injure an old freak like you? Douluo cautiously loaded the 4 cluster soul-chasing life-taking balls into a spirit tool, satisfied, saying, "These things of yours, not only is the attack range great, but the penetrating power is great. Especially after colliding. The more violently they collide, the more spirit power I use, the greater the piercing power. It's a pity they're not poisonous enough. Otherwise, they would be even scarier." Tang San reminded Douluo, "Old freak, don't depend on 'em too much. Even though the cluster soul-chasing life-taking balls have great power, as hidden weapons, what's most important is surprise. When confronting an opponent on the same level, if you lose the element of surprise, their effect won't be so good. As for the poison, originally when I made 'em I didn't have suitable drugs on hand, and even though I've gained some later, it's very difficult to reinforce the poison after they've already been formed." Douluo grinned, saying, "That's no good. Make some more." Tang San smiled wryly. "You think they're candy? It's easier said than done. It requires a great amount of time. Right now I'm participating in the Continental Advanced Spirit Master Academy Elite Tournament. Spare time must all be used for cultivating. How could I make them? Let's talk about it once the tournament is over." Douluo nodded, saying, "I heard you already passed the qualifiers. Next should be the ranking competition. With a little freak like you overseeing it, you should be able to get a good place, perhaps you'll even enter the top 3. Tang San smiled. "Why not champions? Don't you have that much confidence in me?" Douluo shrugged, saying, "That's not a question of confidence. In front of absolute strength, what use is confidence? If you can enter the top 3, that's already a good achievement." There was never any doubt about who would win this tournament. Hearing Douluo say this, Tang San couldn't keep his heart from twitching. Since you say as much, do you know some team that's especially strong?" Douluo sighed, saying, "How is Spirit Hall so powerful? It's because they recruit so many Spirit Master experts. Apart from the 7 great schools, practically all formidable Spirit Masters belong to Spirit Hall. No one can possess more information about Spirit Masters and factors for cultivation than Spirit Hall. Under Spirit Hall's careful fostering, a group of elite Spirit Masters will emerge with each generation. This time is no different. I've heard that Spirit Hall has a few little juniors with astonishing talent. Even the Supreme Pontiff praises them as Spirit Hall's golden generation, the masters of the future. And it's precisely them that are representing Spirit Hall in this year's Continental Advanced Spirit Master Academy Elite Tournament. They're all barely more than 20, and there's no need to doubt their strength. Spirit Hall provided them with cultivation resources and outfitting in all areas. How could common advanced Spirit Master Academies compare? Even you couldn't do it. You're after all still too young. Perhaps you can catch up to them in another 10 years. Douluo was a titled Douluo. Naturally he wouldn't talk without thinking. Hearing him say this, Tang San's mood immediately turned serious. Since you say this, Spirit Hall is determined to win this tournament. Douluo nodded, saying, "Don't you know what the prize is for the final champions in this Continental Advanced Spirit Master Academy Elite Tournament?" Tang San blankly shook his head. Douluo snorted coldly. Originally Spirit Hall was preparing to give those things directly to those geniuses of the Golden Generation, but were opposed by the elders of Elder Palace. As a result, the Supreme Pontiff compromised and decided to give them some training, and that's this tournament. And Spirit Hall took out those things that were originally going to them as rewards for the champions. Tell me, How couldn't they be determined to win? What are those things? Tang San curiously asked. Douluo Dalu retorted, to spirit masters, what's most precious? Tang San's heart twitched. Don't tell me it's a spirit bone. Douluo Dalu shook his head. No, not one, but 3. What? Tang San turned pale with fright. 3 spirit bones. What kind of concept was that? Something like spirit bones was a divine existence to spirit masters. Any one spirit bone could give a spirit master an enormous boost. 3 spirit bones. That wasn't something that could be weighed with money. Douluo Dalu said. These 3 spirit bones were set aside by Spirit Hall, left behind by their passed-away elders. Since the Supreme Pontiff dares take him out as reward for the champions, you can imagine their confidence in their athletes. Do you still have thoughts of being lucky? Of course, Tang San said without the slightest hesitation. Since they've taken him out, there's no need for them to take them back again. Old freak, do you know the levels of Spirit Hall's athletes in the tournament, and what their spirits are? Volume 16, Consummate Fusion, Chapter 108. Flash of Understanding. Douluo Dalu couldn't help staring blankly as he saw the suddenly blossoming radiance in Tang San's eyes. Little freak, don't be feverish. Didn't you understand what I just said? Those spirit bones aren't for you to dream of. Tang San didn't speak. What is called, take what you hear to be false. Only believe it when you see it. Raising his right hand, faint blue light bubbled out of his palm, and under his precise control, only one tiny blue-silver grass stretched its way out. That was just one blade of grass, seemingly no different than wild blue-silver grass. The appearance of the spirit naturally also meant the spirit rings appeared. Yellow, yellow, purple, black. 4 spirit rings hovered quietly. The yellow rings of light were bright and spirited, the purple spirit ring noble and threatening, but that black spirit ring was just like a bottomless abyss, brimming with terrifying charm. Douluo Dalu shot to his feet, his gaze going through myriad changes in an instant as he looked at Tang San. A strict imposing manner abruptly burst out of him, pressing in on Tang San from all directions. Under the effect of the external pressure, Tang San's 4 spirit rings brightened. Only the blue-silver grass in his palm still swayed softly. No, this is impossible. Douluo Dalu rubbed his eyes hard, shaking his head again, carefully staring at that black spirit ring over Tang San. Tang San smiled slightly, saying, "Did you forget? Turning the impossible into possible is what I'm best at. Do you think I can match Spirit Hall's people now?" Douluo Dalu drew a deep breath, slowly suppressing his shock, saying something Tang San hadn't expected. "Give up on this tournament. With your age, you can still participate next time. At that time, there shouldn't be anybody who could oppose your team." "Why?" Tang San stared wide-eyed. Douluo Dalu lowered his voice. "If your strength was still like before, or perhaps if your 4th spirit ring was only on the 1,000-year level, then I wouldn't be worried. But this is different. Your 4th spirit ring reaching the 10,000-year level will bring you endless troubles. Do you think Spirit Hall wouldn't take note of you? If you were Spirit Hall and encountered a genius like this, what would you do? There are only 2 options. Subdue or destroy. If my guess is correct, then right now your information is at least laid out on a platinum bishop's desk. Spirit Hall wouldn't try to act behind your back. They would completely exploit this tournament, arranging for you to have an accident on stage in a just and honorable match. To Spirit Hall, the rules of the tournament is only a game to toy with." Tang San smiled wryly. "So you're saying you still aren't optimistic about me?" Douluo Dalu looked deeply at him. "There are 3 people in Spirit Hall's so-called golden generation. I don't know their specifics, and I also don't know what their spirits and spirit abilities are. But I can tell you one thing. Among these 3, the one with the lowest spirit power is 51st rank, and the other 2 are 52nd rank. They're all only 23 or 24 years old. As they broke through the 50th rank and obtained their 5th spirit rings, the Supreme Pontiff personally awarded them Spirit Hall's Purple Record Medal, and they also set Spirit Hall's record. And of the others forming their team this time, nobody has less than 45th ranked spirit power. This is all I know. Even though Tang San had always known Spirit Hall was formidable, it was only now that he understood just how frightening. 50th rank, even 3 at 50th rank. And the rest were all over 45th rank. What did this signify? Even though Tang San had absolute confidence in himself, now he saw a chasm that really was difficult to bridge. The lowest members on the other side were higher ranked than his side's highest ranked. Could they really prevail over opponents like these? Seeing Tang San's alarmed expression, Douluo sighed, saying, "At your age, your current level is even more frightening than theirs, let alone when you still have the external spirit bone. Don't think too much about it, there will be chances. As long as you don't waste time, there will be a day when you surpass them." Tang San suddenly smiled. Perhaps it was because of Douluo's pointer undoing his issues, but right now his mind was incomparably incisive. "Old freak, didn't you say it just now? As a spirit master, confidence is vital. If I really avoided a confrontation now, the blow to my confidence would be unimaginable. So what if we lose? Even if we can't defeat them, don't tell me we can't defend ourselves. Only all-out battle can show the gap between both sides. I won't give up." Looking at Tang San, something unconsciously crept into Douluo's eyes. "Forget about it, I don't care about you. Just do as you wish. I'll leave first. After returning from so far away, I still haven't had a meal. I'll go scavenge." Finished speaking, jade light flashed, and Douluo's lofty silhouette was already gone. A warm feeling spread. Douluo had just returned, but came to see him first. That wasn't for the sake of those cluster soul-chasing life-taking balls, but out of concern for him. By now there was nothing left of the initial intense vigilance. Even though their ages differed by multiples, Tang San still sensed a feeling similar to Grandmaster from Douluo, even so much that there was something of camaraderie, spanning the difference in years. With Douluo gone, the first thing Tang San did wasn't to cultivate, nor was it to reflect, but to sleep. 2 days and 2 nights without rest had long ago already overtaxed his mind. Without sufficient rest, how could he start to test his vision? Therefore, he didn't hesitate to choose to rest, and moreover very quickly entered dreamland. The dazzling platinum bishop's office, an expansive room with an area surpassing 200 square meters, arranged with all kinds of precious toys. Salas sat behind a massive, somewhat exaggeratedly gorgeous desk. In front of him was a file transferred from Nuoding City. It had to be said that Spirit Hall was incredibly efficient. In just a month they had found this kind of needle in a haystack document by searching the records the Spirit Halls in each town. It was already the 7th time Salas had read this document, but in his heart he still didn't dare believe what he was looking at was real. The documents in front of him was a Spirit Master profile, for a Spirit Master named Tang San. The profile was very detailed. From the first time Tang San registered at Spirit Hall, confirming his status as Spirit Master, to each time he drew the Spirit Master stipend and each title upgrade after obtaining a Spirit Ring. All the details were there. What kind of Spirit Rings he obtained, what rank Spirit Power, this wasn't what had made Salas read it 7 times. The reason why he repeatedly looked it over was actually only one number, a number representing age. 14, only 14 years old. Still several months away from 15. Spirit Ancestor over 40th rank. Spirit Ancestor at 14. Still with a 4th Spirit Ring at the 10,000-year level. Clapping a hand to his forehead, Salas really didn't want to believe it was true. Standing, Salas walked over to a bookcase behind the desk, raising a hand to pull out a thick book. With a burst of mechanical sounds, the bookcase slowly moved to the side, exposing the wall. On the wall was a square metal plate, emitting faint spirit power fluctuations. Clearly, this metal plate was a spirit tool. Pressing his right hand to it, immediately, a layer of faint red light emitted from the metal plate, instantly covering Salas' palm. With another burst of mechanical sounds, the square plate fell inwards, exposing a square space. The space wasn't large, only 1 square chi, with a pile of documents inside. Salas simply rummaged through and pulled out a file marked with the words, "Top Secret." There were only 3 sheets of paper inside the file, with 3 profiles. Salas quickly looked him over, and very soon found what he was looking for. 15, 16, 16, the youngest of those 3 was still 15 when reaching 40th rank spirit power. Abruptly closing the file, Salas quickly closed the hidden space with a peng sound. Returning to his desk with big strides, he once again picked up Tang San's data, looking at that number for the 8th time. Still 1 year earlier than the golden generation. Blue silver grass, trash spirit. Truly interesting. It's fortunate he only has blue silver grass. But this Tang San's spirit power growth rate is a bit too fast. Full innate spirit power blue silver grass. It seems it should be a variation. Salas clearly hadn't been influenced by Emperor Zhu Yi's unyielding attitude earlier today. Picking up a pen, he very quickly wrote a letter. On the envelope was written, "Top Secret, for the Supreme Pontiff." Nightfall, a slender silhouette quietly entered the forest behind Shrek Academy, quickly moving along a familiar path, carrying a wooden case. Her pace was very fast. Each time her legs hit the ground she would be propelled at least 5 meters. In just a moment, she had already reached the log cabin in the woods. Body shooting up, quietly crossing the fence, in just 2 leaps she stood in front of the log cabin's door. Quietly moving into the log cabin, before she had time to even move, a strand of durable blue-silver grass had already quietly twisted around her long legs. A cold voice echoed from within the darkness, "Who? Gee, it's me." Along with the sweet voice rising, blue-silver grass quietly withdrew, and Tang San lit an oil lamp in the cabin. The arrival was Xiao Wu. She placed the lunchbox she carried on the table and looked somewhat worriedly at Tang San, but didn't ask anything. Even though nobody else knew Tang San's condition in these 2 days, she had brought food to him every day, and the corners of her eyes revealed her concern. After asking Grandmaster several times, Grandmaster had only told her that Tang San would have to sort out his problems on his own. Even Grandmaster hadn't expected Tang San to be in even more danger than he had expected. Under the lamplight, Xiao Wu's charming countenance seemed even more beautiful, a pair of black big eyes, long scorpion braid, and still those somewhat exaggeratedly long legs. Even though she only wore the simple school uniform, the air around her was still pervaded with a fresh and clean air. "Gee, eat something first." Xiao Wu opened the lunchbox, taking out the dishes inside one by one, 4 dishes and 1 soup, as well as several steamed buns. Extremely sumptuous, and right now still piping hot. This was also an important reason why Xiao Wu had rushed over. She was afraid the food would go cold. Rubbing Xiao Wu's head, Tang San pulled out a chair and, without any trace of politeness, quickly ate in big bites. He had gone 2 days without tasting what he ate, and now that his issues had been resolved, his appetite naturally returned. He swept clean the dishes in front of him like wind-scattering clouds. Watching Tang San eating heartily, Xiao Wu first looked distracted a moment, then very quickly had a somewhat smiling expression. The two had been together for so many years, how couldn't she spot the changes in Tang San's mood? Seeing that Tang San had already passed the danger zone, Xiao Wu's taut heartstrings relaxed automatically. "Gee, I'll tell you something good. My spirit power is already 39th rank. Tang San, somewhat astonished, raised his head. While chewing a mouthful of food, he said with delighted surprise, "So quickly, then perhaps by the finals you'll also have broken through to the 40th rank. Even if you haven't, just breaking through 1 rank of spirit power will boost strength somewhat." Xiao Wu smiled and shook her head, saying, 40th rank might be impossible in time for this tournament. That's after all a bottleneck to break through. But it shouldn't be too far away. I'll try as hard as I can, so you have to try hard too. That match couldn't be blamed on you. After all, our cooperation with Tai Long and the others really was a bit lacking. Once we reach the finals, our Shrek 7 devils can go up together. The result will definitely be different then. All of us will support you. Everyone's been together for so long, experienced so much, the final champions will definitely be us. In a short while of work, Tang San had swept the plates clean. When he smiling looked at Xiao Wu quietly clear the bowls and chopsticks, for some reason he unexpectedly didn't feel like thinking about cultivating. Gee, we haven't exchanged pointers in quite a while. You rest a bit first, then how about we compare notes later? No spirit abilities and hidden weapons. Seeing Xiao Wu's as if smiling without smiling appearance, Tang San said, "Aren't you looking to bully me?" Truly well said. Only, even without spirit abilities, right now you still might not beat me. If it was without using spirit abilities and hidden weapons, before when Tang San and Xiao Wu exchanged pointers, he would frequently be beaten by her. Her flawless soft skill really was too overbearing. If caught, let alone equal level, even opponents one level higher than her wouldn't stand a chance. In terms of physical fighting capability, among the Shrek 7 devils, Xiao Wu absolutely wasn't inferior to Tang San, even above Daima Bai. Xiao Wu pouted, saying, "No way. My soft skill has improved again recently. We haven't had this kind of physical fight in more than half a year." Tang San nodded, saying, "More or less. In this half year everyone's been constantly drilling tactics." The advantages of Xiao Wu's soft skill were clear, and the flaws were equally clear. That was the need to get close, and when confronting some formidable spirit masters, once spirit abilities were released, getting close would be extremely difficult. Even when teleporting, like against Xiao Wu's defying flame ring that could push away the opponent at any time, Xiao Wu's soft skill would naturally be unable to show effect. Tang San and Xiao Wu had also once carefully researched this bit, but so far they hadn't found a perfect solution. Even though they could resolve it by cooperating, Xiao Wu's lone combat capabilities still couldn't effectively improve. "Come, we'll try it now. Let me see to what degree your close combat ability has reached." Tang San smiling said to Xiao Wu. He wasn't an ordinary person, and even though he had just eaten a lot, it still wouldn't influence a bit of exercise. The two went outside, facing each other under light of the seemingly smiling moon. "Gee, then I'll start. Come." Tang San smiling crooked a finger at Xiao Wu. Everyone's strength had improved, and Tang San's ghost shadow perplexing track had gradually reached a degree of perfection along with the progress of his mysterious heaven skill. Even though Xiao Wu's close combat ability was very strong, as long as he didn't let her get close enough to use force, what was the use of even more power? Therefore, Tang San basically didn't believe he could lose. Xiao Wu moved. She really was very fast. Before he even saw her legs bend, she had already appeared in front of Tang San in a flash. The long scorpion braid behind her whipped out, covering a large area, and she simultaneously stretched out her hands, hugging towards Tang San's neck. Tang San swiftly took 3 steps, his body flickering successively as if illusory, his upper body simultaneously bending backwards, extremely ingeniously breaking out of Xiao Wu's attack range. He didn't attack, but swiftly retreated using ghost shadow perplexing track. Xiao Wu naturally wouldn't leave it at that. Upper body suddenly leaning over, her pace swiftly accelerating, and with a slight swaying of her upper body, Tang San only felt something blossom before his eyes. In that instant, Xiao Wu's body seemed to become illusory, as if 3 of her appeared simultaneously. If he wasn't exceedingly familiar with Xiao Wu's spirit abilities, Tang San would have believed she had used her abilities. But reason told him that it wasn't any kind of spirit ability. The reason why 3 silhouettes suddenly appeared was her speed. At the same time as the 3 silhouettes emerged, Xiao Wu's speed had reached a terrifying degree. Even though it couldn't compare to teleport, she had pulled close the distance to Tang San in just a split second. 3 silhouettes, 2 empty and 1 real, surrounded Tang San all at once. The scorpion braid whipped out once again. So fast, Tang San gasped in admiration, but his feet didn't pause. If ghost shadow perplexing track could be broken so easily, then it wouldn't be Tang Sect's secret law. As a support skill for hidden weapons, lightness skill had always been extremely important at Tang Sect. Seeing Tang San's body also becoming illusory, truly like a shadow flickering several times, he was obviously escaping to the left, but in fact his body had already moved to the right. Xiao Wu, determined to win, still only pounced at empty air. Pausing, Xiao Wu fuming looked at Tang San. "What are you doing running away so quickly? I'm not going to eat you." Tang San grinned, saying, "What's wrong in running when I can't win? If you have the skill, catch me." Xiao Wu snorted, "Then I'll use my true strength." While speaking, her right hand pulled at her scorpion braid. "I'm looking forward to it." Tang San teased her. "Come." Xiao Wu's one hand held her braid, upper body swaying once again, she charged directly at Tang San. Just when Tang San prepared the same old trick, once again using Ghost Shadow Perplexing Track to dodge, Xiao Wu suddenly moved. The scorpion braid flung out, suddenly coming undone. The originally long braid suddenly became like a black cloud that enveloped Tang San completely. Even though Tang San was fast, all this was really too sudden. He only saw his vision go black, and he subconsciously retreated. The scorpion braid itself could be called Xiao Wu's tool to extend her attack distance. When it was a braid, it was more than 1.60 meters long, but now that it suddenly opened, the braid's length abruptly shot up to 2 meters and change, making Tang San misjudge the distance. Even more importantly, the braid was originally like a whip, and its attack range was after all limited. But now that the hair dispersed, not only did the area it covered turn from a string to a surface, at the same time it also instantly covered Tang San's field of vision. Xiao Wu was even faster than Tang San imagined. If Tang San could see the expression in Xiao Wu's eyes right now, he would definitely see a crafty glint within. In that attack before, she basically hadn't used her speed to its full limit. But now, if Zhu Zhuqing was here, she would definitely discover that Xiao Wu's speed unexpectedly wasn't inferior to hers. At most Xiao Wu was only a bit less agile than her. The braid suddenly separated into 5 parts, separately binding Tang San's neck, arms and legs. Tang San's Ghost Shadow Perplexing Track also only let him dodge the 2 parts below, his arms and neck tightening simultaneously. Tang San secretly cursed, both arms immediately turning in reverse to grab and remove Xiao Wu's braid. Simultaneously he immediately leapt up, just managing to get away from Xiao Wu's twisting long legs. Grabbing Xiao Wu's hair, Tang San suddenly had a strange feeling. That hair had a faint delicate fragrance, supple where he grabbed, slipping out of his hands, and basically couldn't be grabbed firmly. Moreover, the hair had an indistinct tenacity, agile as if it was alive. Suddenly, the hair wound around Tang San's neck and arms released, slipping through the cracks between his fingers. No matter how much strength Tang San used, he was still unable to hold back the smooth black hair. Xiao Wu's lovable laughter also echoed at this time. "Gee, this time I want to see how you'll still run." Right now Tang San had also realized he was in a bad position. In order to avoid Xiao Wu's long legs, he had already leapt into the air, planning to rely on the hair he had grabbed to change direction. But the hair suddenly slipped through his fingers, left him without anything to pull, and he soared straight up into the air. No matter how miraculous Ghost Shadow Perplexing Track, it still needed some place to exert strength. Where could Tang San exert any strength now? Xiao Wu's leg lock maneuver was a feint, and at the same time as she withdrew her hair, she already crouched slightly, and in the next moment shot up, chasing after Tang San in midair. Delicate little hands once again wound around Tang San's neck, and helplessly, Tang San could only pour strength into his arms to block. But was Xiao Wu's hands so easy to resist? Hands with arms so soft as to being boneless stretched along Tang San's arms, smoothly winding around his neck, her entire body already pasted to him. Tang San only felt something tighten around his waist as Xiao Wu's powerful long legs wrapped around him. Whether arms or legs, Xiao Wu gave him a feeling of extreme pliability and toughness, even a bit more durable than his blue-silver grass. Most terrifying was that Xiao Wu's toughness was as slippery as her long hair. The strength Tang San used dissipated immediately with a slight sway of Xiao Wu's body. If it was described using Tang San's martial skill in his last life, then the skills Xiao Wu used right now was the most powerful 4 liang pushing 1,000 jin. No matter how you used strength, you would be unable to throw her off. Even Tang San's arms were completely locked up by Xiao Wu's arms around his neck, and he couldn't attack even if he wanted to. If he was facing an enemy right now, all Tang San could have done was a headbutt. But how could he want to do that to Xiao Wu? What could be done if Xiao Wu was by some chance injured? What's more, if Xiao Wu really was an enemy, then Waist Bow would have already launched the instant she caught his neck, without giving him any chance to resist. But Xiao Wu didn't use Waist Bow. The long hair fluttering behind her back, arms tightly wound around Tang San's neck, the two fell from the sky, face to face. Until they stood firmly on the ground, Tang San still couldn't believe this was real. Looking at Xiao Wu almost within reach, exhaling fragrantly, he couldn't help being speechless. Tang San was certain he absolutely hadn't been careless. He knew Xiao Wu's close combat ability, and he had used Ghost Shadow Perplexing Track from the start. But finally it had still ended like this. The key was Xiao Wu's long hair and the changes in her body. Xiao Wu's close combat had clearly become even more powerful, but this didn't seem to be something given her by spirit rings. Tang San was very curious as to what she had actually done. "I've won." Xiao Wu giggling looked at Tang San. Her legs twisted around his waist didn't let go, the two touching so closely they could smell each other's breath. Right now looking at Xiao Wu at such close range, Tang San's gaze froze somewhat. A ball of flame ignited deep in his heart, and his breathing clearly became more ragged. Xiao Wu very quickly discovered the changes in Tang San, and the smile on her face gradually faded. Staring at him equally fixedly, slowly moving the arms twisted around his, releasing Tang San's arms, but both her hands still embracing his neck, her small butt right now stuck to Tang San's abdomen. Her breathing also started to become equally rough, and she could even hear her own heart beat faster. Tang San's hands subconsciously embraced Xiao Wu's slender waist, pulling her closer. Xiao Wu's arms also used strength at the same time. A trace of confusion spread through their hearts simultaneously. Chia, the call of a nocturnal bird suddenly smashed the tranquility, clearing Tang San's mind, and he hastily curbed his state of mind. "She's my little sister. What am I doing?" Subconsciously releasing the hands pulling Xiao Wu's waist closer, Tang San somewhat panicked grabbed Xiao Wu's shoulders, tilting his head. "Xiao Wu, how did you do it? Your close combat capability seems to have grown a lot stronger." All Tang San could do at this moment was to change the subject, only like that could he somewhat ease the embarrassment he felt. Sensing Tang San's mood cooling, Xiao Wu also gradually calmed. But she still wasn't willing to separate from the contact with Tang San at this point. Even though her legs slipped from Tang San's waist, she still embraced Tang San's neck, her body leaning against his, her head resting on Tang San's shoulder, her face naturally displaying a faint smiling expression. Tang San wanted to push away Xiao Wu, but also couldn't bear it. Xiao Wu spoke up, "Gee, do you know why my close combat ability grew so much stronger?" Tang San blankly shook his head. Even though he was intelligent, right now he had somewhat lost the ability to think. Xiao Wu said, "I know the flaws of my own abilities, but not long ago I also understood the soft skill. Spirit abilities might not necessarily come from spirit rings. True powers also have a lot of capabilities not inferior to spirit abilities. Just like your purple demon eye mental attack, right? We all have a lot of potential ourselves, and developing one is a kind of spirit ability. A spirit ability created by oneself will have an even deeper understanding than one brought by a spirit ring, and they're also even more practical." Listening to Xiao Wu, Tang San couldn't help looking distracted a moment. He forgot about pushing away Xiao Wu, immediately sinking into deep thought. Xiao Wu's words could be described as having opened another door for him. If Dugu Bo's pointer before could be described as having created the thought of a prototype for his future abilities, then Xiao Wu's words erased the vagueness before his eyes, making everything become clear. Xiao Wu leaned against Tang San's shoulder. Also, when we use spirit abilities, we can also be more meticulous, coordinating our own spirit abilities, and coordinating with our companion's spirit abilities. Even if it isn't a spirit fusion ability, the effect should still be even more powerful than adding 1 + 1 to make 2. Tang San, astonished, said, "When did your insight become so penetrating? This is also what I've wanted to tell everyone. The coordination of our spirit abilities can still improve, especially the coordination of our own spirit abilities. Like your 3 spirit abilities right now, I think the best way of coordinating them is Demon Confusion, Teleport, Waste Bow. Using Demon Confusion to deadlock the opponent, Teleport to instantly get close, then erupting with the strength of Waste Bow. That way it can doubtless show its greatest fighting strength. As long as the opponent is a little bit careless, they won't have the power to resist further." Release the hands encircling Tang San. Xiao Wu took the initiative to separate from his wide chest, smiling at Tang San under the moonlight. "Since you've already figured it out, then I'm at ease. Gee, I believe you will definitely be the most capable spirit master. I won't disturb you, I'm leaving first." Finished speaking, she walked into the log cabin, collecting the lunchbox and prepared to leave. "Wait a moment." Tang San stopped Xiao Wu, reaching behind her in a few steps, cautiously pulling up the long hair already trailing on the ground. "I'll help you comb your hair, you can leave afterwards." A blush bloomed on Xiao Wu's cheeks. Stretching back her hand and handing over a comb, she softly lowered her head. The 2-meter-long hair was so supple it originally didn't need any great effort to comb, but Tang San spent a full hour. Compared to last time, the braid he made this time was a lot better. In that peace and warm fragrance, his heart suddenly became incomparably penetrating. Once Xiao Wu left, Tang San didn't return to the log cabin, but rather walked into the woods, slowly roaming the forest with the log cabin as the center, walking without pause. If one observed carefully, one could discover that his pace was unusually measured, the distance of each step practically exactly the same. Even more peculiarly, Tang San always had his eyes closed. Walking without using his eyes to see, he still didn't bump into any trees, using the best path to unhurriedly advance. Faint white light began to gradually appear over his body. In the places he passed, the exuberant blue-silver grass on the ground would subsequently sway rhythmically. Tang San walked just like this a whole night. After the night, as he returned to meditate in the log cabin, the blue-silver grass in the forest seemed to have become more lush than before. 1 month's time isn't particularly long, but this 1 month couldn't be called relaxed for the Shrek 7 devils. Tang San only spent 10 days in seclusion in the log cabin, returning to his companions after the 10 days to accept Grandmaster's Hell training alongside them. The training Grandmaster gave them wasn't the same as before. According to what Grandmaster told them, this time's training was called the Potential Stimulating Plan. How was potential stimulated? Grandmaster explained it very simply: the greater the pressure, the greater the propulsion, the easier it would be to stimulate their potential. Therefore, this potential stimulation plan consisted of constant battle. The Shrek 7 devils didn't confront a lot of opponents. Only one. Slaughtering corner, Lu Erlong. Lu Erlong's spirit power wasn't the strongest in the academy. Compared to Zhao Wuji and Flender, she was roughly a bit lower. But in terms of combat ability, neither Zhao Wuji or Flender would dare confront her. Her attack methods consisted completely of that kind of berserk oppression, as frantic as an erupting volcano. She basically wouldn't give her opponents any chance to catch their breath. Before Tang San emerged from the log cabin, Dai Mabai and the others would every day learn the intricacies of masochism under Lu Erlong's torrential attacks, but after Tang San's return, this situation changed. Even though they were still beaten, it wasn't as unsightly. 7 as 1. Tang San shouted loudly, swiftly retreating. Right now he was already completely unable to breathe. An enormous flame in the shape of a giant dragon hiding the sky and covering the earth rushed out. Even though he was immune to fire, the tremendous force of impact contained within that flame wasn't something he had the ability to withstand.